Ready? I think, well, good morning. This is a great turnout. It's good to see most of the media back too, so welcome back. It's an exciting morning. I'm excited to share with you this morning another way that we're working to build a better Iowa. This announcement, it positively impacts our first responders and public safety professionals all across the state of Iowa. Today, I am announcing that Iowa is opting in to Firstnet. With Firstnet, Iowa's first responders have special SIM cards for their smartphones, and those SIM cards put them first on the network to connect and stay connected in every emergency. In Iowa, we understand how critical it is for our first responders from different agencies and jurisdictions to easily communicate with one another. The Firstnet system will be free and provide a way to the state and provide a way for diverse computer or software systems to work with one another seamlessly. That means that first responders from anywhere, even over state lines, can communicate by having the opportunity to utilize the same system. In the past, this type of communication often has been challenging during emergencies. Now Firstnet can help agencies share better information in real time to respond to situations and save more lives. I'm pleased to have the following individuals join me today for this important announcement. We have with us TJ Kennedy, who is the president of Firstnet, Jim Douglas, Firstnet board member, and he's former governor of Vermont, Captain David Ness, Des Moines Police Department, and others working in the first responder or public safety communications field. We're going to have an opportunity to hear more about Firstnet's beginning and their vision in just a few minutes. I want to highlight, though, how Iowa is embracing all Firstnet offers and the benefit that Firstnet brings to our state. Today's announcement really caps off years of hard work. In 2013, Iowa created a subcommittee to really study and vet Firstnet. At that time, Firstnet was creating a nationwide broadband network specifically for first responders and public safety. So I want to say thank you to the 25 members of the Firstnet Broadband Subcommittee, really for their dedication over the past 3 to 4 years. Because of their thorough analysis, the Iowa Statewide Communication System Board unanimously endorsed the plan. By partnering with Firstnet to deploy this system for Iowa's first responders, we'll be expanding broadband to rural Iowa residents, providing access to reliable, high-speed wireless connection. Iowa, Firstnet, and AT&T have an innovative public-private partnership. It's tailored specifically to our state, and it increases coverage, it enhances capacity, and launches new devices and applications for our first responders. Iowa's coordinator worked with Firstnet to develop a multi-leveled, multi-year consultant program, and this was in partnership with the Iowa State Interoperable. That's a hard word sometimes, interoperable. Communication Systems Board. That board includes members from 7 state agencies and 9 local board members from across the state. Commissioner Roxanne Ryan with the Iowa Department of Public Safety, State Chief Information Officer Robert Bob Van Wolfrat, and Executive Director Rick Lombard with the ICN also met with Firstnet to prepare our state for this important decision. So throughout the process, we've ensured Firstnet could meet the requirements of our first responders. We wanted them to have the best network available, including specific coverage areas, cost of services and devices, and economic impacts. We also recommended that coverage be expanded beyond what's currently available from commercial carriers. And we wanted services offered at prices comparable or better than existing cost. And we've required services be better than what's otherwise available, and consideration be given to existing infrastructure that was already in the state. The Firstnet network team addressed each one of these issues. Firstnet and AT&T are committed to continuously evolving, expanding, and investing in the network to continue to meet Iowa's needs. Last week, I had the opportunity to be with my fellow governors at the NGA, and several of them are also opting in. I will be the fifth to opt in. So now it is my pleasure to sign the letter of commitment indicating that Iowa has opted into Firstnet. Okay, and I think I get to hand that over to you. So appreciate that very much. Thank you. Me too, thanks. And at this point, I'll turn it over to Lieutenant Governor Greg.
Thank you, Governor, and good morning. While Iowa's first responders and public safety professionals will have greater access to data, internet, and secure communications during emergencies, this decision also has other positive impacts for wireless broadband communications in the state of Iowa. By opting in, Iowa will be bringing rural responders accelerated access to broadband and putting cutting-edge technology within public safety's reach. In fact, for the first time in some parts of our state, Firstnet will bring broadband 4G LTE to citizens and public safety users alike. This helps erase the digital divide between technologies available to urban and rural areas. AT&T will use its pre-established relationships with rural carriers to get priority service in those areas more quickly. This extended rural coverage offers users tremendous value. The governor and I would like to recognize Tom Lampe and Rick Lombard as the co-chairs of the Iowa Firstnet Broadband Committee. They have done an excellent job including rural carriers in this process. The Firstnet network modernizes and strengthens public safety communications in our state. It will help first responders operate more quickly, more safely, and more effectively when every second counts. It also brings much needed investment to our communications infrastructure. The Firstnet network will build on AT&T's existing footprint in Iowa to expand coverage and capacity. So just to give you an idea of the level of investment we're talking about, over the past 3 years, AT&T has invested nearly $150 million in its Iowa infrastructure. Iowa incurs no risk, responsibility, or cost for the Firstnet network and makes no commitment with this opt-in. Firstnet and AT&T will deploy, operate, maintain, and improve the network in Iowa, and assume all responsibility for capital expenditures, operating costs, and other costs like staffing, training, integration, environmental compliance, and program management. AT&T's Firstnet offerings will be unlike anything currently on the market. And now I'd like to turn it over to TJ Kennedy and Governor James Douglas of Firstnet for more about what this partnership means for Iowa and the United States. TJ?
Thank you very much. We would like to thank Lieutenant Governor Gregg and Governor Reynolds for the opportunity to be here today. It's been amazing to work with the Iowa team from the very beginning. When we look at Lieutenant Tom Lampe and Rick Lombard and CIO Bob Wolfred, if we look at the amount of time and energy that this team has spent with the committees and the network of public safety across the state to make this happen, I could not be more proud of the interactions. I've been coming to Iowa over the last couple of years and a lot of familiar faces here talking about this. And it's just been, you know, a very detailed and thoughtful effort. And I couldn't be more proud of the work done by the public safety leaders here in Iowa. And it's a great example of showing what it takes to make sure that we give the tools to the public safety first responders in our communities that they need to make a difference in saving lives every day. Most importantly, it's going to also make sure that our first responders are safe, that it makes them more effective and efficient in what they do each and every day, and it allows them to work in all parts of the state, whether that's rural, suburban, urban, and that they have the same tools no matter where they are across the state. By joining the Firstnet network, every first responder in the state will immediately get access to a prioritized network in the state of Iowa riding on the existing infrastructure, and that will continue to grow and expand over the next couple of years. This decision will make a huge difference to all citizens across the state, and I really want to commend the state of Iowa for being right here at the very beginning of this important endeavor and this exciting deployment of broadband technology to first responders. With that, I'd like to turn the time over to Jim Douglas, Firstnet board member, former governor of Vermont, to just say a few words. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, TJ. I want to thank Governor Reynolds for her decision to opt into the Firstnet network. This was a recommendation of the 9/11 Commission. It was 11 years before Congress finally enacted the legislation to establish the network, and it's been 5 more since we've come to this point of enrolling states and getting ready for deployment. As TJ indicated, this means that the police, fire, EMS, and emergency managers, all public safety personnel in Iowa, will have the best and most reliable communications when they need it the most. Firstnet puts public safety first. It was the public safety agencies across the country that lobbied for this legislation, and obviously it is they who need this broadband network. The partnership is going to put life-saving technologies into the hands of our first responders. That's because of the hard work of the folks whom TJ has mentioned and the leadership of Governor Reynolds and Lieutenant Governor Gregg here today. We've been working hard, as you noted, TJ, in getting to this point. The team has visited every county across the state of Iowa. I thought that Tom was going to enter the presidential primaries at one point, but I wouldn't rule it out. But we got the feedback, and as the governor noted, there were a number of requests and indeed requirements that the Iowa team put forward, and we were pleased to be able to meet them all. A great deal of due diligence was done, and we're ready to move forward with the Iowa plan. Iowa's been a great leader for some time in bolstering public safety services with advanced technology. I think of the WISE project, for example, that connects emergency personnel on school grounds, and the other initiatives that have already been mentioned. Emergencies by their nature occur without warning. All governors face it, sometimes early in their tenure. And so it's extremely important that this decision is being made for Iowa's public safety community and the residents whom they serve. It's been said that the first responsibility of elected officials is to ensure the public safety, to ensure the people and communities of their jurisdiction are indeed safe. There can't be any progress on other initiatives. There can't be any prosperity unless the citizenry feels secure. So I want to thank you, Governor Reynolds, for your decisive action. It's a real tribute to your leadership that one of your early decisions in your tenure is a big step forward for the public safety community of the great state of Iowa. We have a lot of great first responders in the Hawkeye State, and I want to introduce one of them now, Captain David Ness with the Des Moines Police Department.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you, Governor. Exciting day for first responders in Iowa, to be sure. As was mentioned, this grew from the 9/11 Commission, this national initiative to prioritize or preempt to allow first responders first access to communications, whether that's through cell carriers or data communication. It is critically important, whether it's a 9/11 type event or whether it's a tornado or a flood here in Iowa. Our first responders need to be able to communicate to be effective, and FirstNet will allow that to happen. Congratulations to Iowa, to the governor, for allowing us to be among the first states to take advantage of this, and we're excited to participate. Thank you.
We'll go ahead and open it up for questions on this topic.
How does this compare to other things? I mean, wasn't there a big committee that's been meeting for like 10 or 15 years since 9/11 to look at interoperability? Wasn't the state spending millions of dollars? Has that plan been dropped now in favor of this?
No, there was, I can speak to what's been going on over the last 3 years, and through the ISICS, the Iowa Statewide Interoperability, I said it better that time. See that you just don't think about it. It rolls off pretty good. Communication System Board. So that was the existing board. And then they put in place a subcommittee to deal with the recommendations that came out of the 9/11 Commission, which is the Firstnet Broadband Committee. And so that committee worked extensively with all stakeholders all across the state. As you indicated, they were been in all 99 counties, great collaborative effort looking at taking advantage of existing infrastructure to really make the recommendations back to the statewide overarching communication system board. And it was unanimous. And so I appreciate the due diligence that was put into place. I appreciate the outreach to meet the expectations of Iowa. Now, these are state specific recommendations. So no, there's whatever the state requires, it's different in the different states. So I appreciate the specifics applied to Iowa and feel very comfortable in my decision to opt in.
So are there going to be no improvements to the mobile radios, the handheld radios that the
That is part of what they're offering, and that's it's not a mandate. So there are existing public safety systems across the state that have existing contracts that they would have to honor, but they will be competitive in not only providing the devices but the services that would be available through Firstnet. And if somebody else wants to step up and address this,
One clarification
Okay,
just to
okay.
help is there are two tools that public safety typically use day to day to respond. One tool is a land mobile radio, and it's a very important part of the critical voice communications that's still going to exist. And then you're going to have a smartphone and other communication devices that are what we consider to be wireless broadband. And in this case, mission critical wireless broadband, so that we can get the data that's needed in video and voice communications to everyone. These two systems will work synergistically together, and that's good for all of public safety across the state.
So they'll be carrying two devices.
Correct.
A mobile radio
And a cell phone or something of that sort. And many people today, a lot of the officers and others have computers in the car or tablets. It doesn't always have to be a phone.
Okay.
TJ, thank you for that clarification.
What about citizens calling 911?
That doesn't change. Yeah. Yep.
So the way the system works is it will make sure that public safety, police, fire, emergency medical services, emergency management always have priority and the ability to preempt commercial traffic on the network, except for one condition, and that's when people are making 911 calls, they'll also have priority to get through.
Thank you.
So the AT&T has spent $125 million to upgrade their system to do this and to provide other things. Why are they going to provide it at no cost to the state?
Well, they went through an RFP process and they won the RFP process. And so that was built into, I assume, part of the reason that they were selected as the winner of the RFP process.
Who did the RFP then? Department of Public Safety?
No,
Firstnet.
Firstnet, federally.
Oh, okay.
'Cause it-
Okay, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
This is RFP.
Through not something that the state did independently. It's a national award.
When you say they'll preempt the network, what does
I'm not
that
going to
mean
try to
for
step
the
in. I'm
average-
not going to try to do those anymore.
the average consumer? I mean, during a time of emergency, what kind of computer access and cell phone access will consumers have?
So it's very similar to the way it is today, but it will actually be slightly better in that as part of this award, AT&T will be deploying additional spectrum across the state of Iowa. That additional spectrum will allow for more spectrum to be available for those emergencies, for people to be able to call family members and get through. But the one thing that's important, the caveat on that is, as part of deploying the additional spectrum, police, fire, and emergency medical services will always be able to be at the front of the line. And if they have to, they'll be able to move somebody out of the front of the line to make sure they can get through in those mission critical situations every day.
Any other questions?
Sure. But when is this going to be deployed? Is this going to be deployed? Can you walk out right now and start using it?
It'll be over the next 5 years.
Yeah, so over the next 5 years will be the full deployment across the state of Iowa. But the good news is, starting today, because of the governor's decision, public safety across the state of Iowa can get access to a prioritized network on the existing AT&T infrastructure. So they'll get priority immediately if they sign up for that service. And they'll also get preemption by the end of this calendar year.
And it'll be a local decision whether to use this?
Yep.
Correct.
Okay, so some departments may not choose.
Yep, it's a local decision. Okay.
Could I?
Yeah.
I'm a volunteer.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm Ellen Hagan. I'm past president of the Iowa Firefighters Association. And so we have 15,000 mostly volunteer firefighters. And it's not that every volunteer has to have our radio and now a phone. We could have a phone on the department in the fire truck, so we're ready when. So I want the volunteers to understand, you're not going to have to get more, because we don't have the money. So I want to make sure that's clear.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, again, I'm just really proud that Iowa is opting in, proud to have the opportunity, appreciate the service being provided, and look forward to the partnership moving forward. So thank you very much, TJ and Jim. Thank you for being here as we announced Iowa's decision to opt in.
Thank you.
We can.
Oh, You're on your own.
Yeah.
I'm here.
Listen to that. Yeah. Yeah. I got my lieutenant governor with me. Are you here? Spoken like a former governor, right? Watch him. I told Jim if he wanted to stay and just get the feel of the questions from the media, we'd love to have him. But, yeah.
Sure. I just wanted to ask you about plans for pension studies. Back in January, you and Governor Branson talked about establishing a task force to look at the status of Iowa's public employee pension plans. That hasn't happened, or at least it hasn't been announced since. Meanwhile, the legislature, the pension committee that typically looks at pensions during the off year, they are proceeding with a study through the Reason Foundation. Are you going to still do any kind of study? Do you support this study that's being done by the Reason Foundation for the legislature? What are your thoughts about that?
So right now, when I was sworn in on the 24th, I laid out what my 4 priorities were to really build a better Iowa. Those 4 priorities included making sure that we have a competitive business environment so we can build on the foundation that we put in place over the last 6 years, the most innovative energy policy in the nation so we can continue to lead with renewables and keep our cost of energy low so we can support advanced manufacturing and business in the state of Iowa, to make sure that students have an education that really meets the demands of a knowledge economy. And so that's, and to make sure that we have, that Iowans have the skills for the jobs that are open today, let alone the jobs of tomorrow. And as I travel the state, this is critical. This is critical. We have jobs that are open. We have businesses that are expanding, and they absolutely cannot find a workforce that they need in order to do that. That's impacting our economy, and it most importantly is impacting Iowans. To not help them get the skills that they need to have a great career is unconscionable. And so we believe that is where we need to focus right now to continue to grow our economy, and most importantly, to make sure Iowans have a great job so that they can have a great quality of life, and they can have that in Iowa. So Senator Snyder is working on some fact finding, putting information together. He has, I support his efforts in doing that. But right now, the 4 priorities that I just laid out are the priorities that we're going to be focused on over the interim in the next legislative session. No, I'm focused on those 4 priorities that I just laid out, and that's a lot. I mean, we are working with Future Ready Iowa. That will be the initiative. They'll make the recommendations to me in October. Right now, I have got to figure out, we, not me, this isn't an individual thing. I mean, collectively with stakeholders and business owners and the education community and economic development, we need to really wrap our arms around how we identify Iowans and help them get the skills for the jobs that are open today. And they're open today. I'm not even talking about 2 years out. I'm talking about today.
You were unaware of instances of sexual harassment in the Senate when you were there. Testimony in open court indicates that in 09 and 10 when you were there, there were some horrific instances that were testified about in court. As a result, what action do you think you need to take?
Well, first of all, you asked me if I was aware, okay, and I gave you my personal response. I was not aware. Doesn't mean it wasn't happening, but you asked me if I was aware, and I was not. So what we do, we have a statewide sexual harassment policy that every one of our employees have to read and sign off on it. We have a 0 tolerance policy, and anytime that policy is updated, again, the individuals have to read and sign off on that policy. And so we have completed that, and we'll continue to do that anytime there's a change or annually to make sure that any new employees are familiar with the policy.
That's an executive branch.
That's correct.
What about the legislature?
Well, I'm not, they're going to have to make the decisions on what they have to do from a legislative perspective. I don't control them.
Governor, your administration is negotiating with the medical agencies for new rates for this current fiscal year.
Yep.
How concerned are you that when that's concluded, which is supposed to be soon, that will involve a lot more spending from the state federal governments?
Well, we don't want to spend more than we did for free for service. That was one of the main priorities or main initiatives that we had, that we had moving into that. So Director Foxhoven is been on the job less than a month, but he is working with Mickey Steer. They're evaluating. He's asked for a little bit of time to go back to the managed care providers to make sure that we get it right. It's a partnership. We both have a role in playing to play in making sure that this is successful, and I have confidence that they will get us there.
Without spending much more.
Well, that would be the goal. So, we just, they're in the middle of negotiations. So that's why we have not weighed in. He's evaluating the system. Yeah. And I met with him last week. We actually met with Senator Mathis and Senator Reagan to sit down and talk about priorities and about the importance of getting this settled sooner rather than later. His hope, he indicated to the two senators at that point that his goal was to get it done by the end of this month. And I think he's probably on target to get that done. So I know he's working diligently to make sure that that happens. We've asked for some specific things as we move forward. And I also had the opportunity last week to reiterate to Secretary Price that that was an important component of us making sure that we can sustain the managed care proposal that we have in place.
Approval rating hasn't really changed since you took office. How do you expect to change Iowans' mind, and is that a concern for you right now to address?
Well, I don't think you should ever govern based on polls because that's a snapshot in the moment. So what I'm focused on is those 4 priorities that I just laid out, and I am specifically focused on helping Iowans get the skills that they need to have a great career, because if we can get that done, that impacts our schools because we're growing our economy. We're keeping people in rural Iowa and in our state. We are helping to grow the economy, and we are helping to move people off of a system and into really a great career where they can take care of their themselves and their family. And so that's what we're focused on.
You're headed off to China tomorrow. I was hoping to, with a lot of agriculture groups, I was hoping to wonder what your goals and what you hope to learn from that trip are.
Well, this is the first time ever that we've done an all ag trade mission. I'm really excited about that. It's actually being led by the commodity groups, and they're sponsoring it, and they've asked me to lead the trade mission. So China is an extremely important trade partner of ours. The soybean contracts that were just signed, the lieutenant governor participated in that last week, I think is an indication of the value that the trading relationship has with Iowa and China. And so we're going to continue to build relationships. That's so important in the Asian community. So we want to continue to build on the great relationship that we have and look for opportunities to not only maintain the existing footprint that we have in China, but look for opportunities to build and expand our markets, because that will help with the commodity prices are low right now. That's having an impact on state revenue and on people's purchasing habits. And so we're looking for opportunities to expand our markets for our farmers and direct investment back into the state of Iowa. We're always looking for that also. I think Barbara had one, Bill, and then I'll go back to you.
Governor, last night there was movement on the Senate version of the health care bill. There was then some comments from some Republican leaders about whether it's time to move past repeal and replace and just repeal then replace. There's a difference there. And this morning, President Trump tweeted, as I've always said, let Obamacare fail and then come together and do a great healthcare plan. Stay tuned. What do you think of the president's remarks this morning?
I can tell you what I'm focused on, and I'm focused on the things that I can control and that I have an impact on. And that would be making sure that 72,000 Iowans have some type of health care coverage come January 1 of 2018. So that is my focus right now because of the uncertainty that's happening in Washington, D.C. I'm not sure that they can come to, I hope they can. I'm still optimistic that at some point they will be able to get something done because they have to. Obamacare is unsustainable, unworkable, unaffordable. It's collapsing. Iowa is an example of that. Our premiums have increased 110% over the last 5 years. We've saw healthy individuals and young people come out of the individual markets because their premiums have increased and their deductibles have increased. So it's not affordable for them to, they may have a card, but they can't use it. So therefore our carriers have left. So I'm so, so the Commissioner Doug Omen, working with stakeholders, put together a stopgap proposal. I am working on that every day. We have a very condensed timeline that we have to meet in order to get that done. When I was out at NGA last week, I actually sat down again with Administrator Seema Verma as well as Secretary Price, to talk about where we're at in the process, if there was anything else that they needed from the state to make sure that they are having calls every week and there wasn't anything needed on our part that would slow down the process to get us to yes. So I'm going to let all of that take care of itself out there. And in the meantime, I have to stay focused on something that's going to impact 72,000 Iowans come January 1 of 2018. So I'm working every day through our insurance commissioner, through Nick Pottabaum in our office, through the White House, to get to yes. So we have some type of short-term solution. I have never said that this is a long-term solution. It's not. It's a short-term solution. And in the meantime, they need to get something done in Washington, D.C. I'm frustrated, as well as I think other governors are across the state. I'm okay with flexibility, but they can't, shift all of the costs to the states. They have to be responsible in that state and federal partnership. So I'm open to looking at some opportunity. They would have to, relieve some of the mandates and provide some flexibility and make sure that the funding is adequate over a certain amount of time that would give us an opportunity to help those Iowans that currently need that until I can get them a skill or help get them with a support system in place off of Medicaid and into a career that will sustain them going forward. So it's all of that. It's not a one-off. It's all of that.
Governor, I want to make sure I understand what you're saying. You don't want to see the Medicaid expansion suddenly.
What I'm saying is I'm focused right now on a stopgap proposal. This changes every day. You all are constantly asking me to weigh in on whatever the proposal of the day is, and it fluctuates even within a day. Even our own senators and congressional delegation are hesitant because they're still working on it. They're still trying to find compromise. And that means you continue to talk. You continue to find where you agree, where you don't, move more to the agreement side and eliminate the areas that you don't. That's what they're doing every day. So it's not productive. I mean, I have my, what's important, what we're trying to do. I laid out some of that, but I'm working with our congressional delegation to talk about how it would impact Iowa, what we need. And then they're my voice in those negotiations. So that's who I'm working with. And we're in constant communication about the stopgap proposal, about a long-term solution. So that's what we're working on.
Fair assessment that you still support a repeal and replace.
Yes. Obamacare is not.
Specifically said this morning, repeal, then replace.
I think you need to. It's. Again, there's so many variations. It's not affordable. It's not sustainable. We just have to go back to that. And you're going to see other states that are dealing with it. Every state had some. They're at a different phase, but it's happening. You cannot continue to see the cost of Medicaid go up. It is just taking over state budgets. We have to figure out a way reasonably and responsibly to make that happen and still provide the most vulnerable the services that they need. We are expected to do that, and we should do that. So there's certain populations that we're looking at. We can't just take it away. We have to be sure that we work with that population as we look to help them find a job, provide them the support system that they need, help them find not a job necessarily, a skill. I think a skill is more appropriate way to say that.
Bill, this is the last question.
Sure. I just wanted to ask you, you're probably aware Nevada recently came to the state to legalize recreational marijuana. It's been a huge success. They're selling large amounts of it, making all sorts of tax money. Are you coming at all around to the idea of allowing legal marijuana? I guess one, to the fact that it's become a lot more popular nationally, and secondly, this might be a possible solution to the state's revenue situation.
No. Thank you. And again, thank you to our first